There is no betrayal more piercing than the one that comes from within your own home. When the very people who should nurture, protect, and uplift you become the architects of your suffering, it shakes the foundations of your soul. There is a wound that does not bleed yet aches in ways words cannot describe, a wound inflicted not by the hands of a stranger, but by those bound to you by blood. You have searched for answers, replaying moments, questioning your worth, wondering if you were the problem all along. But the truth is far more profound than you have dared to imagine. The scriptures speak of Joseph, a man chosen by God, yet despised by his own brothers. Why? Not because he wronged them, but because of what he carried within him. A dream, a destiny, a divine favor that set him apart. And so they cast him into a pit, sold him into slavery, and thought they had erased him from their lives. But they did not know that rejection is often the seed from which greatness grows. Have you ever considered that your rejection is not a curse, but a mark of divine selection? It is a bitter truth that sometimes the ones closest to you will be the first to betray you. They see your light, but instead of celebrating it, they attempt to extinguish it. They see your kindness as weakness, your ambition as arrogance, your calling as a threat. And so they push you aside, not realizing that in their rejection, they are positioning you for something greater. Think back to your childhood. Were you always the outsider, the one who felt different, the one who questioned what others blindly followed? Did you find yourself yearning for love that never came, seeking approval that was always withheld? Have you wondered why your victories are met with silence, while your struggles become their entertainment? Could it be that your existence disrupts the narrative they have written for themselves? Cain hated Abel, not because Abel wronged him, but because his offering was accepted by God. Saul despised David, not because David sought to harm him, but because God's anointing rested upon him. Jesus himself was rejected by his own people, those he came to save. Rejection by family is a pain that echoes throughout history, yet it is not without purpose. Have you ever considered that your rejection is evidence of your distinction? Some of you have spent years trying to mend relationships that were never meant to be whole. You have silenced your voice to make others comfortable, shrunk yourself to fit into spaces too small for your calling, carried burdens that were never yours to bear. But what if I told you that your rejection was the very thing leading you to your destiny? What if the pain you have endured is preparing you for something far greater than you can imagine? Look closely at your life. The patterns are there. The favoritism, the gaslighting, the dismissal of your achievements, the twisting of your words. They have convinced you that you are unworthy, difficult, or simply not enough. But the truth is, they fear you. They see in you something they do not understand, something that reminds them of their own limitations. And instead of embracing you, they exile you. But here is where the tables turn. What they meant for harm, God will use for your good. The rejection you face today is carving out a path that no man can take from you. The same brothers who threw Joseph into the pit had to stand before him in need, not knowing that the one they discarded would be the one who held their future in his hands. The same people who mocked Noah had to watch as the rain began to fall. The same family who cast you out may one day have to watch as God elevates you beyond their reach. So what do you do with this pain? Do you allow it to consume you, or do you let it refine you? Do you let their rejection define your worth? Or do you embrace the truth that you were never meant to belong in places that cannot contain you? If your own blood has rejected you, perhaps it is because God is preparing you for a different kind of family, one built not on genetics, but on purpose. This is not just about betrayal. It is about revelation. It is about understanding why you were set apart, why the people closest to you turned their backs, why your love was not enough to make them stay. It is time to stop questioning your worth and start recognizing the divine strategy behind your rejection. It is time to break free from the chains of seeking approval where it was never meant to be given. But how do you know if this rejection is part of a greater plan? How do you discern if what you are experiencing is a divine sign? Let me share with you 7 undeniable signs that reveal the true reason your family rejects you. They downplay your achievements but celebrate others. It is a heartbreaking moment when you achieve something significant, only to be met with silence from the people you once hoped would be your loudest supporters. You worked hard, you sacrificed, you persevered against all odds, yet the very people who should take pride in your success seem indifferent, or worse, dismissive. Have you ever noticed how your family treats the accomplishments of others with admiration while treating yours as if they are insignificant? Have you wondered why the moment you rise, they suddenly turn their backs on you? This is not by accident. This is not a misunderstanding. It is a pattern, one that runs deep, one that is spiritual. Joseph's brothers did not hate him for anything he did wrong. They hated him because of the favor upon his life. They saw something in him that reminded them of their own limitations. They saw the coat of many colors, not as a mere garment, but as a sign that he was set apart. The moment you start stepping into your purpose, the moment you begin to shine, the people closest to you may feel threatened. Instead of celebrating you, they seek to diminish you. The reason your achievements are downplayed is not because they are small, it is because your light exposes what they refuse to confront within themselves. You represent something they cannot understand, something that disrupts the roles they have assigned within the family. If you were once the quiet one, the overlooked one, the one who struggled, they grew comfortable seeing you in that position. The moment you break free from that narrative, they act as if your success is nothing, because to acknowledge it would mean they must also acknowledge their own stagnation. Look at David. When the prophet Samuel came to anoint the next king of Israel, David's own father did not consider him worthy of standing among his brothers. Jesse called forth every other son, except David. The rejection was not because David was unworthy, it was because those around him could not see his divine calling. And when David later stood before Goliath, his own brother Eliab mocked him, accused him of arrogance, and tried to send him back to the fields. Why? Because some people can only accept you as long as you remain small in their eyes. Your achievements threaten the way they see themselves. When you grow, it forces them to confront their own lack of progress. When you rise, they feel as though they are falling. And rather than looking inward and seeking their own path to elevation, they find it easier to tear you down. But here is what you must understand. God's calling on your life does not require their approval. You were never meant to receive validation from those who cannot see the vision God placed in you. Your success is not defined by their applause, and their silence does not diminish your worth. In fact, their rejection is often the very proof that you are walking in divine favor. When Jesus performed miracles, healed the sick, and taught with authority, his own people rejected him. They murmured among themselves, saying, "Isn't this the carpenter's son? Isn't his mother Mary?" Matthew 13:55. They could not reconcile the greatness of his calling with the familiarity of his presence, and so they dismissed him, not because he lacked power, but because they lacked the ability to see beyond their own limitations. Your achievements, your elevation, your growth, it all makes them uncomfortable, because it serves as a reminder of what they chose to neglect within themselves. But you must not shrink to fit into spaces that were never meant to contain you. If they cannot celebrate you, it is because they were never assigned to your destiny. God will raise voices that will honor your work. He will send people who recognize your worth, and he will ensure that your success is not hidden, even if your own family refuses to acknowledge it. But the question is, will you allow their rejection to stop you? Will you let their silence define you? Or will you rise, despite their dismissal, knowing that God's plan for you is greater than any validation they could ever offer? They gaslight you into believing you are the problem. It starts subtly. At first you think maybe you misunderstood, maybe you overreacted. You recall the words they said, the way they made you feel, and yet when you confront them, they twist the story. They make you question your own memory, your own emotions, your own reality. That never happened. You're too sensitive. You always imagine things. Suddenly you are not sure what is true anymore. You start to doubt yourself, your worth, your sanity. Gaslighting is not just manipulation, it is spiritual warfare. It is a deliberate attempt to confuse you, to weaken your sense of self, to keep you in bondage. When family members gaslight you, They are not just dismissing your feelings, they are distorting reality to maintain control over you. They want you to feel small, unstable, powerless, because if you ever recognize the truth, you would break free. Jezebel was a master manipulator. She used deception and control to bend people to her will, twisting narratives, turning people against one another, all to maintain power. Some families operate in the same spirit. They refuse to take accountability for their actions, shifting blame onto you, making you believe that you are the one at fault. If you feel isolated,